I have the official time as 1:52 p.m. on March 27th, 2017, and with that I call the meeting to order. And I'll begin with the calling of our roll and ask Commissioner Coppola to start that.
Commissioner Parole, present. Commissioner Joe Primer, present.
Commissioner Julie Smith, present.
Commissioner Sharkey, present.
Commissioner Ludlow, present.
Commissioner W. William Smith, present.
Kathy Kiley, counsel.
Tina Stanford, chairwoman.
Commissioner Alovich, present.
Commissioner Alexander, present.
Commissioner Otis Cruz, present.
And from our office, and to the side,
Sean Leshy.
Karen Gadget, Jessica Desai.
and officials in the back of the room, please.
Deputy Secretary Rachel Small, present.
Tom Bailey, Public Information Officer.
And we also have our videographer, Ms. Colucci, present. We have distinguished guests to make a presentation to us. They are present, and they will be introduced in the record later in the meeting. And we also have observers from the public present. Thank everyone for their attendance and patience with us this afternoon. I'd like to begin by calling for consideration and a vote regarding our minutes from our February 27th, 2017 meeting. I hope everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes, and with the exception of anyone who may have not been present, I'd be pleased to entertain a motion with regard to these minutes.
Motion.
Who was that? Commissioner Coppola moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Cruz. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, please indicate by saying aye. 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 Any abstentions due to absence?
Abstain.
Okay. Commissioner Ludlow, Sharkey, Krangle, and Alexander abstain. Any nays? Okay. The motion is carried. The first item of old business, and probably the only item of old business that we have to consider today, has to do with our proposed regulations. Kathy Kiley has sent the most up-to-date draft with just some minor revisions from our earlier vote before the period of public comment. She sent around a significant summary of the public comment, which was considerable, that we received. I think it's fair to say over approximately 400 individual items of public comment that was duly reviewed and considered, that weighed into some of the minor changes that we made. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kathy for any further comment before we call for a vote.
After the vote, assuming that this is indeed adopted, this will be in the state register. Not sure of the precise date as of yet. That's yet to be determined, but it should be pretty soon. So as the chair mentioned, we made some minor changes based upon some of the comments that were made to us, but nothing that's substantial. Therefore, I feel that we can go ahead and we can vote on it today.
Thank you. I know you've all had these and have been living with these proposed changes since our first vote. We've taken time to consider the gravity of this proposed change, the ideas that have been presented to us from various individuals sincerely concerned about the policy contained therein, and our own concerns and questions. And we've been assuring you from the outset that we will continue to train on the changes that are being made to our practice. Many of us have started to modify our practice in the field when we're doing our interviews and writing our decisions already in line with these changes. And so I will continue to do my very best to bring you good training and good guidance as we go forward. And with that, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt the proposed regulations that have been prepared and submitted for your consideration. Is there a motion? So moved by Commissioner Smith, William Smith. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Cruz. Any questions or discussion for the record before we vote? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor of adopting these proposed regulations as prepared and submitted to us today, please indicate by saying aye. 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 Are there any nays? Are there any abstentions? The motion is it is unanimously passed. Thank you all very much. A lot of work and effort went into this. I want to take the opportunity to thank our excellent General Counsel and her Assistant Counsel, and even our fellow who have worked feverishly on getting us good information, wordsmithing, researching case law, to have come up with this proposed regulatory change, now adopted change, that I think we can all be proud of. Thank you all very much. Thank you. Okay, now with the old business behind us, we'll get on to some new business. We have today very distinguished presenters with us who want to come before us and tell us about the work that some of them have been doing for a very long time that's ongoing in the reentry field. And with that, I would like to invite up Mrs. Jacqueline McLeod, Father Chinlin, and others who will speak to us on the record and make a presentation.
You want them up front here?
Yes. Mrs. McLeod, you can come up front, please. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you have to walk a little further. Thank you. Gentlemen, okay. I'll move over one more. Okay. Okay, so take your seat. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so much for having us here. We're from a program called Healing Communities Network. It was originally called Network in the prison, has operated in the prisons for over 30 years. With me is Father Steve Chinlin, who is the founder of the program and our current board chair, and then another board member, Kent McCamey. And this is, in fact, I'd just like to take a few minutes and let Father Chinlin tell you a little bit about himself and his, history with the Department of Correction, so he can tell you a little bit about who he is, okay?
I started visiting in prison in 1969, just visiting individual parishioners, and the warden of Greenhaven grabbed me and was very interested in the drug problem way back then when the dinosaurs were finishing, and we were real friends, and he really opened Greenhaven in a way that many of you would find astonishing today. But it meant that we could have people from what became my board visiting inside prison and seeing the groups. I developed the four-part program then but I'm a former superintendent and understand the complexities of the system. Former chairman of the Commission of Correction, and very concerned about our criminal justice system and wanting to do whatever I can to help make it better. But I'm very happy to be here today to say thank you to Jackie for all the work she does as the executive director of Network, and particularly to you, because I have thought for decades of how I would feel sitting in your chairs and making the decisions that you make. And my hat is off to you. My heart goes out to you, because I know no matter how many changes there are and how much paper and recommendations and reports, that when you say yes or no, you're going on the line. And that continues to touch me deeply. So thank you for doing what you do.
And Kent McCamey is from...
Good afternoon. I'd like to first second what Steve and Jackie have said, and to thank you very much for allowing us to be here today and share with you some of the experiences that we've had. On Steve and Jackie's invitation, I joined Healing Communities Network as a board member about 2 years ago, and like I'm sure all of you do, there are many different tasks in all of our lives. With regard to the criminal justice system, I'm the founder of a prison ministry committee at my church in New York City, Brick Presbyterian Church, where we started with one member, who you're looking at now, and now we have 24. It seems the criminal justice system is something that, as you well know better than I, touches a lot of people. Some people are willing to be active in the programs and in the system. Others are not. But they have a curiosity about it. I'm frequently asked, what do you hear? What's going on in criminal justice? Either reform or change. It's gotten to the point where, as some of my colleagues, and with me today is Warner Williams, one of our committee members, at Brick Presbyterian Church, where if I leave services, as happened yesterday, and I'm walking up the aisle, I do try to recruit as many members to our committee as I can, and I notice people peeling off, oh my gosh, here comes that prison guy. And so they go the other way. Some people don't, and some people come in. In addition to that, I'm a volunteer at Sing Sing, and under the auspices of New York Theological Seminary, I'm an adjunct professor, and I teach communications to the Master of Professional Studies program at Sing Sing, and have been doing that for about 4 years. So one of my interests in being with and among you today is that I have the opportunity, which unfortunately you all don't get, and I don't get your side of the fence either, as Steve just pointed out. But I get to see men over an extended period of time. For the September semester generally starts in the middle of September, goes through the end of May or the beginning of June, depending on the year. So I get to see men struggling with themselves and struggling with who they are and what they represent. And there was just one point I wanted to make, that the course that I teach, even though it's under the auspices of New York Theological Seminary, the course I teach is a course in communications and writing. The first semester in the fall is devoted to writing. The second, from January through May or June, is devoted to oral expression, oral communications. The interesting part is that when they do the writing course, and I ask them to, and this is going to sound really simple, think about it yourselves. I say your first writing exercise today is to describe the bedroom or where you slept when you were 9 years old. They have 10 minutes to write that. The replies that I get are astonishing. It tells me, I'm not a psychologist, but it tells me a lot about the individual who writes that. It tells me about what their character's like, how they see themselves, how they saw their environment. And it's a unique viewpoint that I'm allowed to receive, so that each of the succeeding weeks that I teach at Sing Sing, I ask them more questions about that. Describe the neighborhood you were in. Who's the best friend you ever had and why? It's, as these men are willing to become vulnerable and look inside themselves, and they're graded on these papers, and I tell them they're going to be graded on their paper not only for the honesty or lack thereof, because that's pretty easy to find, but also for their use of the English language. Are they grammatically correct? Are they there learning what I'm supposed to be teaching, which is the proper use of the English language? By the time they come to the spring semester, when it's time for oral expression, they have learned a lot through writing. One of my personal beliefs is, if you can't write well if you can't think well. You can't speak well if you can't think well. So that's the subtle thing that we're trying to get across. So it's a unique point of view where I get to know men not well, but well enough for an effective transmission of some of the points that I would like them to remember. And some of the men who you have granted parole to who are out, I just got a letter from the mother of one of these men about probably a month ago, and she said her son had said that he was grateful for having taken just that course. He didn't mention the theology courses, he mentioned the writing courses, because he had to write a cover letter for his resume to an employer. And the employer hired him on the basis of the cover letter, not his resume. And she said if he hadn't had that in school before he was incarcerated, he'd finished the 5th grade. And so it just had a very good result for this guy. He's now in his 3rd month having a job.
Good. Thank you, Ken. One of the things I wanted to share with you is I do this work because of my late husband, Lonnie McLeod, who served 19 years. Yesterday he was referred to as the legendary Lonnie McLeod because he impacted so many men inside and then after he was released. He served 19 years. While he was at Sing Sing, he did the Master's in Professional Studies. Then when he was released, he did a Master's in Divinity and then the doctorate in ministry and had a small church in East Harlem. Lonnie died quite suddenly in 2009. And when we had his services, the undertaker said, Jackie, you're going to need a large place because Lonnie knew a lot of people. And I said, okay, I knew that. Well, I never expected over 700 people to show up. And after that, people began talking to me about what an impact Lonnie had had on those lives, on their lives. And I felt I needed to do something to continue that legacy. So as things would have it, someone introduced me to Father Chinlin, and he was trying to restart Network. I'd said before that Network was started in 1979. It has over a 30-year history. At one point, it was in 30 prisons in New York State and 4 communities. Because the concept is to begin to work with men and women while they are incarcerated to change themselves, to rehabilitate themselves by providing a safe environment for them to share their thoughts, to develop strategies for dealing with issues that are behaviors that have always created problems for them. Father Chinlin felt that I had a very different perspective coming into this work because he had always worked with men and women as facilitators who had served time. So I came with a different perspective. I had never served time, but I had walked with Lonnie from well, I didn't know him the entire 19 years, but, you know, sometimes after his release, and worked with him through his program. He was part of the founders of the Exodus Transitional Community, which I'm sure many of you have heard of, with Julio Medina. That program began in Lonnie's church, and Lonnie was the co-founder there. Now, healing communities is really a way of helping to reduce recidivism. We want to empower men and women who are currently incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, and also involve their families to rehabilitate so that they're ready for the outside for reentry. The core of the program is a weekly or bi-weekly meeting where we have a very structured meeting process. We try to address issues, problems, build on a person's self-esteem, and a sense of community. In fact, I just want to give you just a snapshot of what that meeting is like, and is outlined in the center of our brochure there. We distribute these brochures, and we tell people if you're not at a place where you can participate actively in a meeting, you can start your own meeting because it's not rocket science, okay? And then call me, I'm willing to help. We start the meeting off with, it's called a four-part meeting and a clearing. The first part is self-affirmation. And an affirmation is a positive statement about the person. We ask each person to tell something, to share something that they feel good about. It could be something that they did for themselves, for someone else, or something that just happened. For example, one that I frequently hear is I got my parole date, and that makes me feel good. The whole idea is that no matter what a person has done, where they've been, there's some good somewhere. It may be buried, but we try to identify that something in them that is good, and then try and use that as a foundation to build on. The meetings occur in a circle, and everyone in that circle, if we have outside guests, everyone participate. I participate every week, and I tell them something that I feel good about that week, or whoever the facilitator is. The second part of the meeting is called stresses and concerns, and this is an opportunity to talk about a problem or something that is painful, that is bothering the person. And then they get to share that and then get feedback from others in the room. The feedback, however, must be in terms of an I statement. In other words, in my experience. We don't want anybody saying, well, you know, you should do that, you should do that. And this is based on a similar experience. If a person wants to contribute something and they have not had that exact experience, they can say, if I were in that situation. So it's from the I perspective. This is usually the bulk of the meeting and the longest part of the meeting, depending on how many people are there and how many are willing to share. It takes a while for there to be comfort with sharing stuff in that may be of a very personal nature. But to give you an example, when we put up the notice that we were starting the network meeting at Green Haven 4 years ago, 108 men signed up. Well, we knew we did not have that capacity. So we set up an interview process and selected 30 men and a wait list to participate in the group. To this day, we still have anywhere from 25 to 30 men attending that meeting at Green Haven. Two things. One, because of the reputation throughout the system about network and the ability to be able to share. We have just recently started a Spanish-speaking group because we had a lot of Latino men, And frequently, they did not understand what was going on, so we have a facilitator who speaks Spanish, and they meet in a separate room. And then at the end, they all come together. Some of the concerns that are expressed during this period of time can be about relationships with family, with spouses, with children, concerns about bereavement, death. Someone has died while they've been incarcerated. It may be an issue with a parole officer. It runs the gamut. But there is a sharing, and trust develops over the time. And I have to tell you what I have seen over those 4 years. I have seen the difference, how men can change. And they come in and they look forward to this period of time for an hour and a half every week. We had a facilitator that had been with the program for a number of years that died about a year ago. They were devastated because it was so sudden. I immediately went to the prison for the next meeting after John's death was announced, and you have never seen so many tears and feelings expressed about one person and how he had helped them move along in their lives. Just to give you they had a going joke with John about men wearing pink shirts. And could John would wear a pink shirt, and they would tease him about it. Well, this particular night, 4 men showed up in pink shirts because they said real men wear pink. So I thought that was an interesting aside. So after stresses and concerns, then the next part is called making a plan. We try to focus the men and women on setting goals for themselves. What do I want to do with my life? How do I go about doing something? Because we tell them, you may have a goal. For example, I want to go back to college, but that's a big goal that needs to be broken up into pieces. So we try to help them. So the exercise here is tell us one thing that you need to do that can be accomplished by this time next week. Simple, practical, doable. Like, don't tell me you want to go back to college, because that's a process. But you can say, I'm going to get an application between now and next week. And that's a very important part. The fourth part is a reflection, which is a brief period of silence to contemplate, reflect what is going on in the meeting, just a quiet time. Although we do not promote any one religion, we are spiritual based. They can meditate, they can pray, it's up to them. Something I've been doing recently is taking in a poem or some type of reading for them to reflect on that has a life lesson, involved in it. In fact, one I just took to them is called Eat That Frog. And what that is whatever is your biggest challenge for today, do that first. Because that gives you the energy to do all of the other things that you need, during the day. We close the meeting with what we call a clearing, and this is an opportunity to share any final thoughts. It could be about anything, something that occurred in the meeting, something that may have occurred outside, whatever. It's up to them, whatever the clearing is for them. What I frequently hear is, thank you for coming. I didn't want to come, but I'm glad I did because I learned something. That's always a very, refreshing part, especially when they say thank you, for coming. They said, we realize you have taken the time. Now, we are currently operating in 6 prisons. We're at Greenhaven, Walk Hill, Bedford Hills, Taconic, Queensboro, and Edgecombe. And we have community-based programs located in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and we had a program in the Bronx, but that stopped when the facilitator took another job. And we're trying to reorganize that again. I have 2 requests now to start another program in Brooklyn and another one in Queens. We are a small nonprofit. Our budget is less than $100,000 a year. We are usually on a tight budget, tight line. There are times when we run out of money and I don't get paid. I'm the only full-time staff. The facilitators, we pay a stipend. And when we have not had money to pay them, they have frequently continued doing the groups because they understand how challenging it is because they were in this position at one point. So the facilitators, as I had mentioned, are formerly incarcerated individuals. They are now working in responsible jobs. They have advanced college degrees, and they have skills trainings in substance abuse, in anger management, and our individuals will come to our group for several months, and then they feel they're okay and they don't come. But when they hit a bump in the road, they're always welcome to come back. I think I'd like to end by sharing a comment that one of our participants wrote to me not too long ago. He writes, I did 28 years in prison. I have been out for 18 months. Healing Communities Network helped me prepare for my return to society. I attended the group for 3 years at Green Haven. The weekly group gave me the confidence to express myself, accept my errors, to think before I act. He continues, the support and encouragement that I received in this program helped me to adjust to the time remaining in prison and helped me to prepare and want to be a productive member in society. After so many years in prison, I was encouraged to go back to school after my release. I am now a chef. I am now working and maintaining my household. Inside prison, there's a lot of loneliness, hardship, and misery. It gets in the way, and you can't focus on anything good. Healing Communities Network was priceless to me and many others on the inside. I thank God every day that I am a free man and for the network program because they were a lifeline to me and my family. And I will stop there and answer any questions you may have. I didn't want to sit here and talk, too long, so I wanted to be open to questions.
I have a few, but
Sure.
I'll start and then we'll see
Okay.
if we have others,
Good.
and I won't just keep going. Other civilians, it seems to me you came to this work with a unique perspective of being the wife and or significant other of someone while they were an inmate, and then when he became free, living out his sentence in the community, or if his sentence ended before he was released, you have a unique perspective as the significant other or the spouse. Do you find that you have any other interests of other women or significant others similarly situated in supporting your work, or any other civilian, quote unquote, non-formally incarcerated persons involved in your work?
Okay, I talk about my work all the time. And many of my friends have said, Jackie, anytime you need anything, let us know. For example, I'm a constant supply of clothes to some of the reentry program. Because they will call me and say, Jackie, I have a woman that needs X, Y, and Z. I then go to my friends and say, I need X, Y, and Z, and it's provided. I have a friend now, her husband died about a year ago. So about 6 months ago, I took 8 very large plastic bags of clothes, and I'm talking about very good quality clothes, to this program, and the program was so thankful because these were large size, and they very rarely get men's large size clothes, and these what they were. But I have colleagues, like individuals who, let me just answer like this. I have an organization that I belong to, And I believe this would be a perfect project for them to work. But you know, there's still this cultural change that needs to occur, because frequently people do not see the incarcerated or formerly incarcerated in the same light. But I have to say, attitudes are changing. And, you know, I don't try to push this on anyone. If someone say, hey, I want to help you, I take them up on it and I call them on it, you know.
You're a very articulate lady. What was your background before you took up this work?
I was a professional fundraiser. At one point, one of my jobs was the executive vice president for the American Lung Association. And the other job where I learned how to do meetings was school boards. I was the school board president for 2 years in my community. I live in Teaneck, New Jersey. And I was on the board, 1990, when a white policeman shot a black kid in the back. And we had riots. I have come face to face with Al Sharpton and other community activists, because I believe that we have to evaluate people where they are and move forward in a positive, productive way. And one of the things I have to tell you is many in my community, in the black community, did not feel I was black enough. That because my attitudes are, let's look at what is best for the whole and give people an opportunity and a second chance. But I worked as a fundraiser for 20 years, and I think every job that I had was preparing me for this job.
So often that's the way it works,
Yeah.
isn't it? Are there any other questions before I go on? I've got a few more. Please.
I'd like to thank you just for the work that you do, you know, and you're doing it voluntarily and out of the spirit, and I love for those who you are trying to, you know, give a second chance to. Many of us don't do that much, particularly for no pay. So I want to thank you. It's well needed, and I really appreciate it. My question is you find people who want to be involved sometimes, and they don't really know what to do or how to do it, but they just want to do it. And when they find out that it has to be some sort of system and organization to what they are going to be involved in, they tend to not want to be involved as much. It's like work all over again. I just want to help.
Okay.
I don't want to work. Doesn't seem to go together. How do you work through, you know, or have you experienced that, and how do you work through it if you encounter it?
Okay, I can give you an example. When Father Chinlin and I, you know, when he decided he wanted to reorganize, there was nothing in place. So, and this was completely new to me. As I said, my husband ran a reentry program. This was his work that he did, and I was not that actively involved. So I had to learn a lot. I went to lots of meetings. I listened to people. And to give you an example, we needed to raise money. And I knew how to raise money, but I knew to do grants and whatnot, we needed a program. And I remember Steve used to always say, Jackie, we got to write a grant. I said, Steve, we don't have anything to write a grant about yet. We have to get some program, we have to get something in place. And then I began reaching out to the people in DOCS, to their program people, to see if they would let us come in. Fortunately, we had a good reputation. There were many people in the system who remembered Network from before, and they gave us a chance. Same in the community. We didn't have money, so went to churches to ask them to give us space. Because one of the programs that my husband had been working on when he was alive was a program to get churches to do a better job in their prison ministries. For example, a church will say, I have a prison ministry. And what they will do is go into a prison once a month, do a worship service. When that person come home, they have nothing to offer them. And some in the church don't even want them there. So there's a program that helped churches work through this, because this is one of the roles and responsibilities of a church. Matthew 25, when you visited me in prison. So we started, and by I think it was the third year, we were in at least 2 prisons. So it took, and one of the things I say to many of the men and women when I run a group is 2 things you must learn: patience and persistence. You must be patient. When I go to a facility, I spend a lot of time waiting. Persistence. It took me a year to get a program into Wallkill. But it's continuing to develop a relationship and then demonstrating to people that you are sincere and you want to make a difference. And it's not so much being able to talk and be articulate, it's your actions. How are you really putting together this program, and then being able to demonstrate that this is going to work. And then getting back to people to let them know we were able to do A, B, and C. Yes?
I'm very impressed with your outcomes. Those numbers are startling in this sort of day and age.
We're happy about that.
I'm sure you are. Now, the people who are in the prison program, do they automatically go to the community program, or are these 2 different subsets?
We encourage them to come. It's really volunteer. One of the things I found is individuals who have served long sentences are more inclined to come because they have the greatest challenge when they get out. So, you know, I have a flyer that that we distribute inside with the locations of all of our sites, with a phone number where they can call once they are released. And they call the phone number. More than likely, I'm not in the office because I'm out and around. But when they call the office, they can get my cell number. So I don't have as many people as I would like to see. It takes a couple of months sometimes for them to get in touch with us, but they do. But it's really, we wish it was more of a seamless program, and it works. It happens. They do come. I find that one of our facilitators, this is particularly for women, one of our programs is for women only. And these are women that have had domestic violence involvement. And the program is called Steps to End Family Violence. Well, when they go there, then they automatically learn about our program. The Osborne Association has us listed on their website, so I get calls through them. Plus, also, there's another positive that we're able to do. I am what you call an almoner. This is a person who gives alms. There's a foundation in New York that have 125 almoners throughout New York City that can give financial grants to people in crises. So I'm an almoner, so I get, you know, a number of dollars that I can distribute to people, and the money I distribute is primarily to people coming out of prison. Not all of them coming out can get a grant. There are a number of individuals who come out, they have no family assistance, they're in a homeless shelter, they go to HRA, and they can't get their benefits for 45 days. So they have $40. I can give them a couple $100 to help to tide them over. But this is something that is really a blessing, because otherwise this would aid a person. What are they going to do? You know, this is fertile ground for them to do something and end up back in the system. Our numbers, our facilitators maintain very good contact with the individuals once they don't come back. We hear from individuals 3 and 4 years after. I've run into them in the street and I don't even know who they are, and they'll say, "Hi, Jackie." And I said, hi, you know. And and I get phone calls from individuals who have participated in our group just to say, we want to let you know how I'm doing and whatnot.
Where might we see your work when we're doing our work? When we're interviewing someone for the first or subsequent time, where might we see your involvement in their packet or in their file?
You might see a letter. You might see a letter because participants in our program, we will write a letter for them saying they have participated. We very closely follow DOC's guidelines about just writing indiscriminate. We have to know the person. We get requests all the time. And what I will frequently tell them is have your family come to our meeting if you can't come so that we can get to know you better. So you may see a letter from us in the packet. You may see a certificate of completion, of participation. For example, at Greenhaven, I just prepared, I think it was 6 certificates of participation for men who have participated for 3 years. So that's 2 places where you may see. And that was one of the reasons I was so interested in coming, so that you can know more about, what we're doing.
Is there what's been commonly referred to as restorative justice? Is there ever any restorative justice work that goes on in these meetings, or discussion about the impact of their actions on other people in the community that could typically be called victims?
Yeah, this is something that happens quite frequently, particularly particularly at Greenhaven and at Bedford Hills and Taconic. One of the things that is important about our work is that a bond and a relationship, develops. So if they feel comfortable with the group that is assembled, they will share some of that. So many of the groups particularly at Greenhaven, talk about how they are able to share their feelings. We have begun to do some, one of the things is it's important we get them to tell their story. Like one of our facilitators always told the men, no one can tell your story like you tell your story. And we work on the communication, like Kent, about how do they express themselves. I tell them a lot of times when we're in the group, speak up. My hearing is not as good as it used to be. So please speak up and speak clearly. And I remind them of that because frequently, because of them feeling they're talking down here, and we encourage them to speak out.
What do you do, or I phrase it differently, have you ever had situations where you have someone who's come to work with you, but you just have a feeling that they're feigning interest because they think they'll get something out of it? They think it'll help them to get their open date, or they think it'll help them in some way, but the level of sincerity just isn't what you would hope to see. Do you ever have that experience? And when you do, how do you deal with it?
Well, we don't have to deal with it. The people in the group deal with it.
Also, I think just the dynamics of the group. Very quick example. In the part 3, stress and concern, one guy once said, famously, the guy my wife left me for, he's in prison. The guy my wife left me for is now shacked up with my daughter. And one of the guys in the group just couldn't draw a breath. I kill him. And there were murmurs of, real anger around the group supporting him in any homicidal. And he was so angry he couldn't speak. Anyway, the point of our group is that he was picked up by the process of the group. And that's crucial. And I would be very interested, wish we had days together and we could talk about its relevance for parole, because even seeing somebody who's a candidate for release, if they are tuned in to process, that they wanted to get an education and realized they had to make the application and they had to study and so on. That, for many, is their first experience in the process of going from a wish to some kind of fulfillment. And I would certainly see him as more or her, more of a candidate for parole if they have any understanding of process and not just reaction.
But I've seen it a number of times where someone comes in, they're insincere. And, you know, after a while, you just don't see them anymore because the others in the group take care of it, you know. Because they can.
One more addition to that, Commissioner. In the 4 years that I've been teaching, I've had two guys who were, I thought, insincere. One guy walked into the first class in the fall, and I asked him when we were on circle, why are you here? And he said, I'm here because I'm going to put it on my record that I took part in this class. He said, but if you'll forgive the expression, he said, this is all BS. He said, you're going to teach me to write? I don't need to write. He said, I know how to haul cement. That's all I need. If I get out, I can do that. And he said, so this is the last you're going to see me. I'm not coming back. He finished highest in his class in June. He came back every single class because during the course of the next 3 hours in that class, something lit his fuse. And he said, I'm sticking with it. And one of the worst things that I or Jackie or Steve or anybody can do is try and persuade somebody to be in the course, because it never works. So let it go, and he came back, his own choice.
And we have had, like in some facilities, the officers would make someone come to the meeting, and they would be sullen and, you know, whatnot. But by the end of that meeting, they're the person who will say, hey, I didn't want to be here, but I'm glad. Yeah. So they get caught up in the process. Yeah. And then others who know them will encourage them, well, come back next week and try it again. And I always tell, when I do an orientation, give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't come back. You don't have to come back. We're not going to make you, because we can't make you want to change. This is something you have to want for yourself.
Right. And could I answer a question this gentleman asked before? How, when people, if they want to join a ministry at all, if they want to do anything which is going to help somebody who's incarcerated, do we as a church program, do we have anything that trains them? There's two things that we spend a lot of time on, and that is teaching people how to be a decent mentor, and that has a lot of legs to it. How to handle a job interview, how to write a resume, how to handle yourself in the civilian world, which has a lot to do with communications, but also has a lot to do with various things. And teaching somebody to be a mentor is not easy. It begins with listening. And most people, which I'm giving an example of now, love to talk. So teaching them to listen is a big step. The second thing we do is teach people how to write letters to people in prison. And there is a curriculum to do that. We've developed part of it, and we've taken examples from a friend of mine who teaches, he's a Buddhist, he teaches at San Quentin, another guy teaches at Angola in Louisiana, and we've sort of cobbled together this is an effective letter writing campaign, the do's and don'ts, how do you do it? So, yeah, when people want to join a ministry, it isn't so much that, oh my gosh, this is going to be more work, this is going to be something effective.
And I imagine the department also has a set of guidelines, things that volunteers have to adhere to in terms of written work, what they do in person, what kinds of things they can say, boundaries, appropriate boundaries. And is that all done in writing? In other words, do they give you like a brochure? These are the rules. If you follow these rules, you will not be suspended. There will be no problem. Is there ever any in-person training that you get from the department, or is it all just like a guidebook?
Oh, yes. Because when you become a registered, as part of becoming a registered volunteer, you have a 3-hour orientation. And then you have to go through that orientation every 2 years. I just finished that orientation at Taconic on Thursday. So every 2 years you have to, go through that. So you get a reminder, and periodically, if there's a new policy or a new procedure, that is sent to you, and you have to sign that you received it.
Thank you. Commissioner Parole?
Thank you. I two questions, actually. So one, Jackie, is your program evaluated by docs? And if so, how do they evaluate your success or failure rate by docs? Because I see, as far as recidivism, that's one thing, but many of the participants are still inside or stay inside, or what may happen.
Okay, docs have not evaluated our program. They send me, they call it an evaluation, where I have to redo the goals, what I want to accomplish, and whether they were accomplished. That's the extent of the evaluation. I think docs is in the process now of looking at the programs that are coming in. And whether an evaluation process is down the road, I'm not sure.
However, Wallkill invited her in,
Yeah.
Bedford invited, and I think it's because the administration is aware that network is a positive influence in the total institution, and they keep running into it.
And that actually could go part of my second question. I was going to ask you said you were a superintendent. What facility?
I was superintendent at Taconic.
At Taconic. Okay.
I opened it as a work release prison.
Oh, all right. Okay. There's probably only one commissioner like Cinderella, and it's Commissioner Smith. So here's my question, and I guess, and this is sometimes what we see, but so the first part of my second question is, do the inmates that participate in your program do they have to satisfy all the recommended or state dictated programs prior to your program? For instance, if somebody has not completed ASAT yet, they cannot do your program.
We have no requirements like that.
No, not you. I'm saying docs.
Oh.
I wonder if docs says first you have to complete these, and then you can do volunteer programs, because that's often the case. They have to complete the recommended mandated programs before they can do something in addition.
We are not aware of that. Whenever, I'm not aware of that by the time, well, let me say this, from my experience, by the time men and women get to our program, they're on a track to doing positive things. So more than likely, they have completed all of those, or they're in the process. As Father Chinlin said, the way we've gotten into a lot of facilities is we have been invited. For example, when Bayview was open, before it was closed, we had a group there. And the program person there, the commissioner for, I think the assistant commissioner for program, was there. And when they closed Bayview, she went to Wallkill. And I went to a volunteer recognition luncheon and ran into her. And, she said, "Hey, you think you can come into Wallkill?" And I said, yeah. So now she is at Shawanga, and she wants us to come to Shawanga. I don't have the money to pay a facilitator I usually try to find someone living in that area. For example, at Wallkill, the man who facilitates that group lives in Beacon. So it's an easy commute. So now we are looking at, what's the next step, but a lot of what we do is really tied to the availability of our budget.
So, and then, Father, from your experience in the facility as an administrator, even though it was work release different from some of the other facilities, when you say a positive influence, would you say because they find that those who take your program oftentimes are less of a problem with regard to discipline and
Absolutely.
violence and things like that. Because if you see someone who's completed or at least participating for a length of time and or completed Merle Cooper or the CFIS program in the western part of the state, you can tend to see a little bit of a track record there that if they're involved in CFIS, it's likely that they're not going to have tickets for a while, especially if it's serious infractions like violence or fighting, whatever it may be. You know, it could be an out of place or smoking, but maybe not and some of them for 10 years or so. But when you ask, sometimes we ask, you know, what happened? Because the first part of your sentence, you were terrible. What happened? Some of them will say, well, when I entered the Merle Cooper program, or when I started working with CFIS, you know, there was a gentleman there who was no longer with them, his brother Oberst. A lot of them will bring him up by name and say, you know, that's, and then you notice the dates and the record when they started the program, and the discipline had gotten better. So that's why I'm wondering if administrators see that in your program, that even if guys aren't using it as a tool to get released, but that the administrators say, you know what, guys who take part in this program usually are less of a problem.
There are facilities that have a counselor assigned to people being released from the box, and sometimes they'll say, if you haven't tried the network program, give it a try. It is an anger management program and certified as such. So it has word of mouth says do it.
And one of the things I can say is that just because something has happened with OASIS, where for a program to get funding, they have to do anger management and substance abuse at the same time. So there are very few organizations that do just anger management. So we will become one of them, and it was important to me to make sure that DOCS was aware, and then they could refer people to us who only needed the anger management.
So do you get referrals from the field when somebody comes out from the parole office?
This just happened. We've done 4. We've gotten 4 so far, but we want to expand that number because DOCS just approved this. I think it was in December. You know, so I'm working on that.
I'm going to send a couple of copies of my book to your chairperson, and I would love to correspond. It's been enormously satisfying. Now that I'm a friend of this guy, I don't get to go into maximum security, so I can maybe live vicariously through you. I would love to answer questions or amplify or whatever.
Well, we have to be careful for ethical reasons of not accepting gifts, but if you let me know, I'll probably be happy to buy a book for the use of the board, you know, because we have to be careful of those
Well,
things.
these gifts are worth $400 a piece.
Oh, gee. Well, Father, I don't know then. I'm going to have to, you know, read it online or get it some other way.
Good response. Good response.
You know, but and of course we're not in a position where we can endorse your work or anything of that nature. However, as you may or may not know, our business meetings are on the World Wide Web, on YouTube. So if anyone is out there that wants to donate or join your work, you want to share information, contact information they can reach you at?
Okay. We are under the umbrella of the Fund for the City of New York. They give us office space and they do the back office stuff, financial stuff for us. We're located at 121 Avenue of Americas in New York City. The zip code is New York 113, and our address is www.healingcommunitiesnys. I have to see. I forget it.
Healing Communities Network.
HealingCommunitiesNetwork.org. www.healingcommunitiesnetwork.org. And our phone number at the office there is 212-925-6675, and I'm at extension 293.
Any final questions? Any final comments from our presenters?
How long is it? Every day, once a week? How many hours?
We usually meet. Some programs meet every other week. but most of them are weekly, and usually 2 hours.
2-hour session.
2-hour sessions.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, our meeting is not yet concluded. I want to let you know as another item of new business that, of course, we have to resolve the question of how we're going to handle the caseload of cases that we missed during the snowstorm and the closure of the state facilities. And so I will be sending something around that's been the work product of Commissioner Smith in terms of one idea on how to deal with that caseload over the next month or two. And look forward to any feedback you have before I then make the decision to notify the facilities exactly what our plan will be for the month of April and possibly May. Other than that, I don't have any other new business. Does anyone have any other new business you'd like to put on the public record? Okay, hearing none, I have no correspondence. Announcements, Rich DeSimone is retiring, and we do have some information about a retirement party. I think it's on a Thursday night, so I'll forward that around for your consideration. If you want to know more information about the significance of his work and efforts as part of the department, Kathy can fill you in if you haven't heard that name in the past. Other than that, we don't have any other invitations that are standing, and we don't have any business for executive session today. So at that, I would appreciate a motion to adjourn our meeting. One second.
I thought you said we were just doing something. Oh, you mean later you're sending something out?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes.
I thought you said you were-
I'll send out the work product for our comment, and then we'll proceed from there. Motion on the table by Commissioner Elovich to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Alexander. Any questions or discussions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Thank you. We are dismissed, and it is 3 o'clock on the dot.